Ladies and gentlemen. So, Arknights CN just dropped a new event, acting as the prologue for the upcoming IS-5. And this event also brings a new 6-star operator called Nymph. Nymph is our first 6-star primal caster, and if I'm not mistaken, our first look at what a dual Sarkaz looks like. Since I've never really talked about a primal caster before, let's talk about her trait first. Primal caster is pretty similar to a core caster, except their abilities are tied with elemental damage. Element damage is a very strong damage type, because last time I checked, we still don't have enemies with any elemental resistance. Or even if I do miss someone, it still means it is rare. So you can think of elemental damage as true damage. But unlike ritualist supporters who can easily fill a certain element circle, think of primal as the element damage amplifier. Because Nymph, or other primal in general, are not great at filling elemental circles, but will shred the enemies when they trigger the elemental burst. However, because of that, primal really depends on other units, typically ritualist supporter, to fill the element circle. Warmy is the best example for this. She struggles to do anything, because there's no one else in global that can fill the burn element circle. Luckily for Nymph, she inflicts and works with necrosis. And there's a bunch of operators who can inflict that. Anyway, now let's see her talents. Nymph's first talent allow her to inflict elemental DOT, equal to some percentage of her attack stats. But only when she attacks someone in a necrosis burst state. And the effect lasts until the burst ends. For talent 2. She will get attack bonus whenever there's an enemy in her range, triggering necrosis burst. And the buff stacks up to plus 24% attack. Now let's see her skills. Skill 1 is the typical primal caster first skill, where she will get attack bonus, and can inflict some necrosis on each attack. But if the target is already triggered the necrosis burst, she will deal element damage instead. It's a decent arts and element damage source, though she still struggles to fill the necrosis circle alone. And I recommend you focus on her other skills. Next up, skill 2 is what makes her unique. And depending on how you want to use her, it can be argued that this is her best skill. So, this will allow her to instantly mark an enemy with fear. Fear is our newest negative effect, and currently Nymph is the only one who can inflict it. Fear will make the target become unblockable, scatter and run away from the operator who inflicts it. Needless to say, it's a powerful effect to stall, or move the enemies to hazardous areas. Though still be mindful of when you use it, because you might end up making the enemies move towards a tile you don't want. Either way, this also works as a nice AoE skill. Because if there's other enemies near the main target, they will receive the equal amount of arts damage, and some necrosis. And if the enemy is already in necrosis burst, her talent 1 effect on them is increased, or equal to her attack stats at M3. All in all, this is a great skill. It gives a good AoE arts, unique and useful debuff, the best way for her to inflict necrosis alone. And a very good element damage source once the burst is triggered. Then we have her last skill. It will expand her range, becoming something like a marksman sniper, increase her attack and attack speed, and now attacks 2 targets. Additionally, if the enemy is in necrosis burst, her attacks to them will deal elemental damage instead. It's a great arts damage skill, and an insane element damage source. If anyone with a necrosis burst is in this skill range, it's almost guaranteed that enemy will be put out of existence. But in order to get its full potential, you will need the enemy to be in necrosis burst. And sadly, she can't fill any necrosis circle with this. So you are required to bring a necrosis dealer. Which is something you'll probably already do, if you decided to use her. And well, the other downside is that the skill has a big cost. So what do you think, ladies and gents? will you save for Nymph? All in all, she's a good 6-star caster, and that unique fear effect is definitely going to be one of her selling points. But I can see that because she needs another necrosis dealer to function at full potential. And the best one to partner is Virtuosa, who is limited, and certainly not owned by everyone. It's going to make her less viable. Although you can argue the more accessible Valor Queen is also a good choice to partner. But other things that might make her less interesting to gacha is that she had a very tough competition. Logo's debut isn't that far away from her banner, and I'm sure most of you are waiting for this particular banner. He's a very strong and universal caster that can also inflict necrosis. So if you already got Logos, you probably don't really need her. Furthermore, her debut is also close to CN Summer event in August, which means anniversary event for us global dwellers, which also means another limited banner. That should be all. Adios.